Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you very much for this opportunity. I'm Madhav. I am the CEO of WRI India. We are a 15-year-old think tank that has been trying to use research and science to work closely with decision makers, bureaucrats, politicians, bankers in India to really drive climate action. And broadly, I mean, we started out as a research organization, but I feel like now we've become what I call first practice consultants. It's every time when we're trying to do something new, how do we bring the extra minds, the extra hands to drive this big action. I have a hard task. I'm following after this youth energy, but broadly, our broad thought is that you need 3 types of action, right, to drive this big agenda on climate change. One, a certain portion of the problem, I would say 30-40%, would be solved by technology. The new things we will be able to invent, new ways in which we will be able to capture carbon. Then there is, more and more information that through individual action we can get to 10-12% of the problem if we do everything. And then there is the middle, which is going to require us to act collectively, which is going to require, whether it's the supply chains of companies, whether it's community organizations. So I think to a large extent we try to work on these 3 pieces and try to see how we can bring research information to these agendas. So I'm going to talk about 2 or 3 sort of problems that we've been trying to work on and share just broadly what we want to do. So we work on food, energy, and city systems. We believe that these are 3 crucial systems that are going through transformations. And so I'll just talk about, a few things we're doing on this. We've built this whole model to talk about decarbonization pathways to India for net zero by 2070. If India is able to do it, we'll do a 63% reduction from the business as usual. And that itself is going to be a monumental task from where we are starting today. So about 50% of these emissions reduction will come from industry. And the big opportunities are green steel, green cement, green chemicals, and all of this to a large extent powered by green hydrogen. India has just announced a large mission on green hydrogen. And this means India is trying to build electrolyzer capacity that isn't there in the world today in the next decade. It's unprecedented. This is going to require innovation. This is going to require R&D collaboration. This is going to require a lot of things. And I think, so this is sort of one large sort of what I was saying, this technology shift that is going to be required to make this transition. Similarly, the other big opportunity is freight, trucks. What we did is we've actually worked with several companies that have created net zero targets. We had aggregated demand for 8,000 trucks. So there are 8,000 trucks that people are willing to buy today, electric trucks, but there's nothing in the market. Today there are about 10 or 12 electric trucks manufactured in India. How are we going to ramp up this capacity? Again, this is going to require innovation. This is going to require large manufacturing capabilities. And so just these are sort of some examples where we need this big, massive change of this idea of demand aggregation is the other interesting story that has emerged out of India. In 2020, India had, I would say, 400-500 electric buses. Today, there are 5,600 electric buses running on India's streets. There are 20,000 buses already contracted. We're talking about 500,000 electric buses that will happen probably by 2030. Now, how did we achieve this? Basically, the idea was, So the idea was that for the first time, we were able to aggregate demand across 10 cities and bid out in a single tender. So the government of India actually, at one time, 15,000 buses were contracted. What it did was it resulted in getting prices that were lower than diesel, right? And these were again, but this means few things. This means actually public operations became private operators. So these are not absolute price of buses. It is the price to operate the buses for 10 years on a certain concession. Now the thing is, these buses are contracted, they will be running, these contracts have been won by OEMs, but OEMs are not going to operate buses. India needs to create a market of 100 bus operators who are going to operate. This is a huge opportunity now. That you want to create 100 operator companies that are going to operate these electric buses as we go from these 500 odd electric buses to 500,000 electric buses operating in India. So again, I think the advantage of India, which is unique, that the size, we were able to aggregate the demand and be able to drive a technology very quickly, or technology adoption very quickly, and now we're in this process of where the right climate finance needs to come for us to really be able to operationalize this large opportunity that is there. So I mean, just to this was and government of India really pushed through this, and so let's go skip this. So this was just to give you a flavor of some of the larger things. Right now I'll talk about things where we really need community action. So this is heat is becoming a big challenge in India, right? And our cooling need today, India, our cooling need in 2030 just is going to be the same as the energy consumed in India today. We're going to need close to 200 gigawatts of energy just for cooling, given where India is headed in terms of temperature. What we saw though is that there is huge opportunity for doing more than just air conditioning. This is some data. So a neighborhood that has some amount of trees and a neighborhood that does not have trees is a 6-degree difference in land surface temperature. And we are consistently seeing, and I'll just show you images, as soon as you pour concrete, and we are, you see, so this is just a place, there was this big rail line did not exist, we built it, and what we saw is this temperature, this was between 2000 and 2010, this is sort of again, and now you're able to use geospatial data, satellite imagery to bring this kind of data to politicians, but what you can see is the temperature was around 33 degrees after we poured all of that concrete. For mass transport, which is a good thing, temperature went up by 6 degrees. Now this is 38 degrees. At 42 degrees, where human productivity starts to get impacted, which is half the year that is going to happen in India, heat is one of the largest problems, going to be one of the biggest problems we would like to solve. Again, this is going to require a lot of collective action. It's to do things like this, but also to look at every possible public space in the country that can actually drive this agenda. So this is where I'm saying we need collective action also, and this is where digital technologies and this whole emerging phenomena of digital public infrastructure can really be used to build that kind of marketplace that allows people to both do the greening, build the livelihoods out of it, and also sort of drive this action. And just something so this is a project we started. We built this greening curriculum into Mumbai schools, and now they are doing these vegetable gardens on the terraces of the schools, public schools, and then it becomes, again it drives, just having something like this, and these are schools that have no air conditioning, help bring down the temperature by 2-3 degrees, and especially in the peak months. This is another initiative on the rural side that we have been driving, which is really trying to restore land. India has a lot of degraded land. One of our big commitments at COP is 2.5 to 3 billion hectares of land. So the thing about this is, we're working in these 3 states trying to restore 30 million hectares of degraded land. And the approach here is to actually try to bring finance to restoration entrepreneurs, very much entrepreneur driven, and try to work. So here it's like trying to work with 3 different parties, working to do district level convergence, because there's a lot of funds actually there. How can we get them to work in cohesion, working with community organizations, so we give grants to community organizations, and finally, how do we create the debt at interest rates that work for these rural restoration entrepreneurs. So again, I'm very happy to share details if anybody is interested. This is a large fund that we are trying to create. There is a similar fund in Africa that won the TED Audacious Prize this year, which is to restore 100 million hectares on the African continent. We are trying to get to a similar number for India. And these are the kinds of restoration, entrepreneurial opportunities that are being funded through these initiatives. Again, very happy to share more details. One last thing, and I know because there is a food loss and waste session after this, we've been working on food loss and waste. We've been trying to study the supply chains for these four. I mean, tomatoes was a hot topic in India 6 months ago because of the prices. And, just food processing, the opportunities for food processing, cold chains, just the amount of food loss that happens in 90% of fruit, for example, in Himachal gets thrown away. So the amount of food loss that happens is an incredibly large problem. And I think that then with bringing science data to solve that becomes extremely important. So with that, I'll stop. Just wanted to give a flavor of the things we do, trying to bring science research to solve. We are a philanthropy-funded think tank. We work bring science data research to improve decision-making for all stakeholders in this ecosystem. So thank you very much, and thank you for the opportunity.